Hi, I'm Colin, and this weekend I made carnitas with mole and tomatillo salsa. So last weekend was Cinco de Mayo, and I figured that'd be a great opportunity to check some things off my cooking bucket list. And yes, I do realize the irony that more Americans celebrate Cinco de Mayo than Mexicans do, and that's largely due to advertising from the beer and wine industry, and as a result, they sell as much beer and wine as they do around the Super Bowl on Cinco de Mayo. For me, tacos and margaritas are just the best way to usher in spring. I've never made mole, carnitas, or tomatillo salsa before, but I was really excited to give them all a try this weekend. Sometimes mole can take days to make, but I found a really cool recipe over at chefsteps.com that had a little shortcut that allowed you to make it in only about an hour, start to finish. So this trip began where a lot of my cooking projects begin, which is a trip out to the various grocery stores in my area. All right, I've got the girls with me. We're at El Ranchero, got to pick up some tomatillos and some chilies.
Yeah, and I'm getting a treat after.
Oh, you think that, huh?
After.
So the day before I wanted to serve the carnitas, I salted a pork shoulder, vacuum sealed it, and stuck it in a sous vide bath at 162 degrees Fahrenheit. There are no frills with the seasoning on this pork because we're going to put out a spread of toppings that will be super flavorful. So we really just want the pork to be delicious and tender and meaty, and then we're going to get some crispy bits on the outside in the oven. The day before, I also began to prepare a roasted tomatillo salsa. I husked and washed some tomatillos, seeded a serrano chili, and cut up some onions along with to toss and roast and caramelize. They came out looking and smelling delicious. Then all I had to do is toss all that stuff together in a blender, along with a couple tablespoons of lime juice and some salt, and just like that, I had a freaking awesome salsa on my hands. Just like recipes from all over the world, mole can be made in 1,000 different ways, and you can use different ingredients, and everybody's got their own little special way of making it. So don't at me if I'm not doing the exact variation of mole that you happen to love. This is a quick version that I can make at home on a weekend and gets me close to be able to try mole for the first time because I've never had it before. So across all those variations of mole, most often it starts with chilies, and depending on what recipe you're using, it'll depend on what chilies you use for that. And then it's usually seasoned with a ton of different spices. I mean, sometimes there's like 25, 30 ingredients in a mole recipe. And then a lot of mole recipes include chocolate, which is where things get really interesting. You wouldn't expect chocolate and spices and chilies to be on a pork dish, but it's awesome. The recipe I followed still had a ton of ingredients, many of which I had to get at the Mexican grocery. However, the cook was pretty simple. All I had to do was weigh out everything and then add it to the pressure cooker. Then I cooked the sauce on high for 30 minutes, and after that, I let it steam to release, and I blended up the sauce. It was so good. It had this dark, spicy, warm, fun, chocolatey flavor going on. Literally nothing else tastes like this. With how dark and spicy the mole was, I knew I was going to want something to brighten up the flavors on my final taco, so I decided to pickle some onions and jalapenos. For the onions, I just combined salt, sugar, and vinegar in a jar and let them sit overnight. I decided to get a little bit fancier with the jalapenos, and so I added some garlic, peppercorns, Mexican oregano, and cumin seeds to the batch. The brine for this was also just the salt, sugar, and vinegar. The next morning, I woke up and began to cook some tortillas up. I covered how I made tortillas in my last video on tacos al pastor, so go check that out if you're curious, but here's a shot that explains why I only let my kid help with making the last tortilla of the day. Got some tortilla helpers. Say hi!
Hi!
Alright, put the ball right down in the middle of the press. Now fold over the plastic in the press and then squish that down. Yeah, good, stop! About a half an hour before my guests arrived, I pulled the pork shoulder out of that sous vide bath. Oh man, was that sucker tender. It was just falling apart when I tried to score the fat cap before roasting. I then popped that sucker in the oven to get as much browning and crispy bits on the outside. And I could not have been more pleased when I pulled this out of the oven. The meat had the perfect amount of super crispy caramelized bits and really nice, tender, meaty bites. Then it was time to just get all the garnishes, salsas, and sauces on the table, drink some margaritas, and just gorge ourselves on as many tacos as we could cram into our faces. Alright, I'm gonna sneak a taco before I serve anybody else. The mole. I've never had mole before. It's super good. Very nuanced, and it's like the chocolate really comes through, but then it's spicy and oh man. Those peppers, I'm also getting a lot of flavor from them, not just the heat. Now that's a good taco. Those carnitas were amazing. We were having the time of our lives drinking margaritas and eating carnitas, and the meat was so tender and crispy and deliciously meaty that no matter what toppings you put on it, you were having a great day. I was so happy that I loved the mole sauce. I mean, whenever you're cooking or you're eating out, the gold standard is to be surprised and delighted by what you're eating, and the mole did just that. I had no idea how that would taste when I saw the ingredient list, but when I put it on the meat and ate it in the taco, and I threw some pickled vegetables on with it, oh my God, it was amazing. I loved it. I was also thrilled with how the Tomatillo Salsa turned out. I mean, it was so good with everything being roasted and then still having a lot of the brightness from the lime juice in there. I think the only thing I would change is I'd probably add just like a ton of garlic to it because, well, I'm a garlic freak. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're all out there enjoying spring, and let me know what you like to make when the weather turns warm. What makes you feel like you're just celebrating the change of the seasons? If you like this video, it'd really help me out a lot if you'd leave me a like and a comment and you subscribed. Until next time, cheers.